Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's me, Mitch. And we're going to pick up where we left off in our little 36-hour sous vide chuck roast adventure. Now, if you remember, I cut the chuck roast after I took it out of the sous vide into 3 different pieces. The first piece I cubed up and made those delicious, crispy, burnt chuck cubes. They were really good. So far, I'm batting 1 out of 3. What I'm going to do now is going to open up the container. And what I've got left in here are the two steaks that I cut. And this third piece right here, we're going to deal with that now. And what I'm going to make out of this is I'm going to make some beef soup. And one of the reasons why I want to make the soup out of this is because I have, from the sous vide bag in the bottom of this container, I have all of this liquid, slightly gelatinous liquid that came out of the actual chuck steak. And what's in here, it's got to be full of nutrients and collagen and some fat and a lot of flavor. So I'm going to pour that into the bottom of this slow cooker here. And then I'm going to take this last piece of beef and I'm going to chop it up into fairly small pieces, which eventually, when it gets broken down in the slow cooker, I'll shred it out and mix it in with the broth that I hopefully will have remaining. So what we're going to do is we're just going to chop this up into fairly small pieces. There's fat in there, there's meat in here, but we want this to come out fairly well chopped up so that we can mash it up real good in the final broth that we end up with. And in that way, hopefully use all of the nutrients that were left in the broth that came out of the chuck roast while it was sous videing for those 36 hours. Now this is going to take some time in the slow cooker, but again, it's one of those things where we let time do the work. And the only work that we have to do basically is just prepare the ingredients and get them into the slow cooker. Now there was plenty of salt on this chuck steak, so I'm not going to add any salt to the broth or the liquid here. And I think that will do it. And we will take and put all of this into the broth as well. Now, stir that up, and then we need to add some liquid to this because I want this to come out like a soup. I don't know if you could call it bouillon or broth or beef soup or whatever, but we're going to see it. I'm going to start by adding two cups of water to this. I think maybe I'll add 4 cups of water to it. Should be 32 ounces of water, 1 quart. And then as it cooks, we'll see if it thickens or how it breaks down, and we'll give it a taste. But for the time being, we're just going to turn the slow cooker on low. So we'll turn the power on. We will set it to 8 hours. We'll set it to low, and we'll start to cook. And we'll come back from time to time and check on it.
6.5 hours later.
All right, this thing's been in the slow cooker all day. And let's see what it looks like. Well, looks good. Give it a little taste. It's probably very hot. It's actually pretty good. A little bit of meat. It came out delicious. How about that? So let's pour it into this Tupperware thing. See if I can do this without burning myself to bits. Now splashed a little bit, and now we got to get the rest of the beef out of there. This thing's heavy. And the meat. There we go. A little weightlifting in tonight as well. So we'll set this down in the sink. And not too bad. So there we have it. I got myself a big tub of beef broth. Probably 4 to 5, maybe 6 cups, which would be a nice little appetizer before a meal. Well, we made our soup, and it's the next day. For my first meal of the day today, I'm going to have smoked salmon, and I'm going to start with a cup of this beef, call it soup, broth, or whatever, with a garnish of some pork rinds on the side. So this is what happened when I took it out of the refrigerator. A little fat did form on the top, but very little fat compared to what happens when you slow cook the meat. So most of the fat did, and that was interesting, most of the fat did stay in the meat throughout that long sous vide cook and didn't go into the liquid, which I think was mostly nutrients, water, and collagen, so it should be very healthy. But we're going to chop this fat up and take some of it. We're going to take about a cup of this broth and the meat. Then we're going to dish out a cup of this. I think maybe one more ladle full. That's a cup right there. I'm going to take it over to the microwave, which I very rarely use. We're going to heat this up for a minute. So I know I've got at least 5 cups of this beef soup here, which I'm going to be able to use here in the future. Also got a nice little ribeye for dinner tonight. So let's wait until the soup heats up, and we'll take some pork rinds. These are the Clancy ones from Aldi. And we'll put a few of these. Make a nice little gourmet presentation out of this thing. Got a fancy fish cup here. Let's see if this is hot enough. Not quite. Let's heat it up for another 30 seconds. Okay. There we go. That's hot enough. So let's get all the meat in the soup. There we have it. There we have it. Now, let's see. What does this remind? This reminds me of croutons. That almost looks like onion soup. So I'm going to throw a couple of the pork rinds in the soup. Let's taste it. Oh my. That, especially with the crunchy pork rinds in it, is so good. Mmm. 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 Wow. I don't know what I like better. This or the little cube crispy cube things. This is really good. Mmm. And the pork rinds in it. That's a surprise. Mmm. Mmm. Wow. Sorry. That, my friends, is worth doing. So out of that one, I think it was $17 or $18 chuck roast, we're creating some really, really neat, different dishes that are very inexpensive. And I could eat this soup every day. Make a great appetizer to any meal on carnivore. So with that, happy news. Take the rest of the day off and eat meat.